Dealing with credit card debt can be so stressful, especially when it continues to snowball into bigger debt due to high interest rates. Sometimes it can feel impossible to dig yourself out of debt. And in today's video, I'm going to share 6 options you might not even know you had to pay off debt. Quite frankly, a lot of these tips are simply moving around our debt to get the interest rate lower so that long-term we will not be spending as much money on interest. But to be clear, we still have to do the work to pay off the debt. So while we're considering these points, we should already be cutting back on our expenses as much as possible. Let me preface by saying that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, but I have been learning about personal finance for years because being financially literate is one of the biggest investments we can make in ourselves. I'm simply presenting options that may be available if we have a lot of credit card debt. As always, make sure you do your own research on your specific situation as to whether these decisions make the most sense for you. So these are just some options you might consider when you feel like you have no options at all. By the way, my name is Carly. If you're new here, on this channel, we talk all things personal finance, the business side of modeling, and living intentionally. So if you're interested in any of these topics, please feel free to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. My first point is doing a balance transfer. Balance transfers allow you to move your existing high interest rate credit card debt to a new credit card with a 0% introductory APR, which stands for annual percentage rate. And you get this 0% APR for a set period. Usually this is 12 to 18 months. And here's how it works. So during the introductory period, so for those 12 to 18 months, you won't be charged interest on the transferred balance. And this can help you because you can then pay down your debt much faster since all of your payments will be going directly toward the principal instead of going toward paying off interest. For example, if you have $5,000 in debt and you get 18 months at 0% APR, that's 18 months that you're not accumulating any interest. You could save hundreds of dollars, and instead of paying this interest, you reduce your principal balance significantly. How much you save when you do the balance transfer depends on how much your debt is and how aggressively you're paying it off. Okay, so what's the catch? Most balance transfer cards charge a one-time fee, and that's typically around 3 to 5% of the amount transferred. So then you just have to make sure that your transfer fee doesn't outweigh the saving from not paying interest. Some cards might not have transfer fees, so it might be worth comparing offers to get the best value for you. And the best way to use this hack is to not add additional purchases onto this card. In general, if we're trying to pay down credit card debt, we should not be making extraneous purchases anyway. That might mean we have to live a bit more minimally until we're debt-free. So this card will just be for the debt balance. And keep in mind, the 0% APR is temporary. You only have 12 to 18 months before the debt starts accumulating interest. So consider it as buying yourself time, and that's it. This might be a good option for someone who has a high credit score since balance transfer cards with 0% intro APRs generally require good to excellent credit. So for reference, that's around a score of 670 to 850. I have a whole video on credit cards and credit scores, which you can check out here. I'll link it above and below. Using a loan against your 401k is another option to pay off your credit card debt. This option is only available to people who are employed under a company that sponsors a 401k. Most 401k loans allow us to borrow up to 50% of our account balance, I think up to a maximum of $50,000. Then we have to repay this loan with interest back into our 401k account over 5 years. But in my eyes, that's better than paying a bank because we're basically paying ourselves back. And also a 401k loan doesn't impact our credit score, so this is a good option for someone who might not qualify for a traditional loan. The catch here is if we take our money out of our 401k account, we're reducing the amount of money invested for our retirement. And even though we're paying it back, we're not able to reap the benefits of the growth from our money being in the stock market. So while we technically have 5 years to pay back this loan, it would be in our own best interest to pay it off as quickly as possible, ideally within a year. As with everything, there are risks. If we take out a loan on a 401k and we lose our job, or we switch jobs before the loan is fully repaid, we have only 60 to 90 days to pay ourselves back in full. Otherwise, the IRS sees this as a withdrawal from our 401k account, which means the loan becomes a taxable event. And we have the standard 10% penalty charged if we're under the age of 59 and a half. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Another option is to withdraw contributions that we've made into our Roth IRA account. In this scenario, we're only able to access the contributions, not the earnings. For the Roth IRA, we don't have to pay this back. In fact, we're actually not allowed to pay this back after we've made the withdrawal. But we're able to withdraw with no penalty because Roth contributions are made with after-tax dollars, which is our take-home pay after taxes. Each year, we're only allowed to contribute around $7,000. It's ranged from $6,000 to $7,000 in more recent years. And when we retire, we're able to withdraw money from this account completely tax-free. That's everything we contributed plus the earnings. So this is also an option that we'd want to think through very carefully before we execute, because if we withdraw from the Roth IRA, we deplete our retirement savings and the potential untaxed growth that can be quite substantial if that money were to remain in the market for 10 to 20 to 30 years. And the key word there is untaxed. By retirement, sometimes Roth IRAs can get into like millions of dollars, and that's millions of dollars of untaxed money. Many of us have specific knowledge or skills that other people don't have and are willing to pay for. And that's what makes every one of us unique. If you think about the specific skills that you might have, maybe consider finding a way to monetize it, or simply get another job if you don't have the energy to think too hard about that. So another option to pay off our debt is to pick up another stream of income and dedicate all of our earnings from this extra work toward our credit card debt. We can make significant progress without altering our primary budget or changing our current standard of living. But it's important to make a commitment to yourself that you will use 100% of the money you make from your side hustle to solely go toward your debt. And that's on top of what you are already currently paying from your primary budget. Moving to a lower cost of living city, even temporarily, may be a great way to save money and allocate those savings toward our debt repayment. For many of us, our highest expense on a monthly basis is probably our rent. Housing costs, including rent and utilities, are typically much lower in smaller towns or cities with a lower cost of living. Not to mention expenses like groceries, transportation, and even entertainment are generally cheaper in smaller cities. These savings can add up to hundreds of dollars monthly, which you can then put toward credit card repayments. Also, sometimes living in a high cost of living city is precisely what caused us to spend more than we could afford in the first place. So a lower cost of living city might minimize the pressure to keep up with lifestyle inflation. It might also give us less temptation to spend on entertainment and luxury goods, and we might be more likely to focus on debt repayment goals in a lower cost of living city. After all, we're literally in a separate environment precisely to eradicate this debt. That being said, moving costs can be quite steep, including penalties for breaking a lease, buying new furniture, maybe hiring movers. So again, make sure the benefits outweigh your costs. And who knows, you might find that you actually like living in a lower cost of living location. If we have built up equity in our home, the next option we have is to take out a home equity loan. In my eyes, this is a last case scenario because it puts our home at risk. But on the flip side, we will be saving on interest. Home equity loans generally charge much lower interest rates than credit cards do. I think the average interest rate on a home equity loan is around 8 to 10% compared to a credit card's 25 to 30% interest rate. Based on how much equity we have in our home, so basically what percent of our home that we actually do own, a bank or a credit union or any other lender may be willing to issue a home equity loan equal to some percent of our equity in our own home. The exact interest rate on this loan will depend on our credit score, our income, and how much equity we have in our home. But in general, the riskier we are to loan money to, the higher the interest rate for this loan will be. Also keep in mind, if our home is not fully paid off, we will have to pay our home equity loan payments as well as our mortgage payments because those are distinctly separate. But again, this shouldn't be anything new since theoretically we should have been paying off this debt anyway. Our credit card debt is now just a home equity loan instead of a credit card debt loan. The danger of a home equity loan is that if you can't repay it, the lender can seize and sell your home. Borrowing more increases this risk, so proceed with caution. I would only consider this option if we are 100% sure that we are able to pay off this debt. Once we pay off our credit card debt, it's time to celebrate. I think it's really important to acknowledge that we've just hit a huge milestone. And after that euphoria or relief has dissipated, now it's time to live below our means, spend less than we need to, and make sure that we save as much as we can in an emergency fund so that we don't go into debt in the future. I would recommend around 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. I make a lot of videos around these topics, so make sure you check out my playlist on building wealth, which I'll link up there as well. Credit card debt can be debilitating, both mentally and financially. It causes unnecessary stress. When we're debt-free, we can spend our energy doing other things to improve our lives. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also comment down below which tip resonated with you the most. Your engagement really helps out this channel, so thank you. And don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you're trying to save money, check out this video where I share 6 tangible tips that you can start doing today to save $1,000 in 3 months. Honestly, I break it down by the numbers and it ends up being over $1,000, so check it out.